Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Unbridled Equestrian Podcast. Today, we have Brooklyn Rae joining us, and she is a fabulous horsemanship and yoga and healing instructor who we were just trying to figure out how long we've known one another, and we remember when we first met, and it was very memorable, but having a hard time placing the when. And so Brooklyn is the owner of BRG Horsemanship, as well as Healing Through Horsemanship. And we are going to have a really wonderful, authentic conversation around your journey and what you help horses and their humans with today. Thank you so much for joining us. It's great to have you here.
It's great to be here too. Thank you.
My pleasure. And I'm so excited to dig into all of the things that you do because, you know, as we were chatting about earlier, it's something that I think more and more people are looking for in their lives, and more people are needing, and more horses are really kind of calling out in us that we heal and expand ourselves and our knowledge and the way we're approaching our relationships with them, our relationships with others, and our relationship with ourselves. So I'm
Beautifully said.
Thank you. So I guess I would love to just sort of start out with hearing a little bit about you and really hearing what healing through horsemanship looks like, especially, you know, when we slow down, listen, and really tune in to what our horses are communicating.
Yeah. It is that exactly, slowing down, practicing presence and listening, practicing attunement to each other. So what is that? Looking for how is my horse feeling? What is their nervous system communicating to me in this moment? What needs might they have? What needs do I have? What is my nervous system communicating? What are my emotions communicating? And then seeing how these inquiries can bring us into deeper relationship with ourselves and with our horses and really everyone else. So simplified, that's how I would say it. And then it can expand into many, many things.
Yeah, well, and even I love touching on attunement. Can you explain a little bit about what that is for anybody listening who maybe isn't familiar with the term or, you know, how it equates to our journey with horses?
That's great. When I think of attunement, I think of a tuning fork actually, and how sound starts to resonate in a room and be felt and experienced. There can even be emotional experiences from feeling or the sensation of sound. So that's what comes to mind when I think of attunement, and I think of wanting to be able to feel my horse, wanting to be able to feel my horse in my own embodied experience, especially, well, not only especially with riding, really in any way, whether I'm on the ground with a horse or I'm on their back. I want to be able to feel them, and I want to be able to attune to them, meaning have a felt sense for what is going on for both of us and how can we be in deeper layers of communication, deeper layers of feeling for each other. So that can be physical, it can be energetic, it can be emotional, spiritual, mental. We have so many different layers of self, and I really see that horses have similar layers. And so the lens through which I teach is that lens of which layer of self am I communicating with and attuning with. That's how I would describe kind of the practice of attunement.
Yeah, I love that. And it's just, you know, it's so rich when we start to assess and access those layers of ourselves and the layers of our horses. You know, one of the things that I've struggled with for so long in this industry is the desire to sort of I don't know, discredit the horse,
Sure.
that horses are stupid. They don't know what they're doing. And it's like, that's so far from the truth. And it would be akin to somebody saying, oh, well, women are stupid. We tend to have these generalizations that we apply to a group or a species or a gender, and it misses so much of the richness and depth that group actually embodies. And if I'm not mistaken, it sounds like what you're discussing is really like opening up to all of the layers of complexity and vibrancy and richness, and really all of the communication that goes on there. Because I think we've all been in a state where we get a feeling and we don't necessarily know why. We can't necessarily attribute it to any particular thing in that moment. And sometimes it's as simple as we do something with a horse and then we feel bad about it. We feel like, ooh, that wasn't very nice of me, or we feel guilty later on. We're not proud of how we showed up in that moment or how we responded. And the more we can start to attune to that, I think the more dynamic the communication and the relationship becomes, not only with our animals, but with ourselves, and having awareness of, am I just reacting out of frustration because I don't have the tools or the understanding to work through this in a productive way? And, that's where I think practitioners like yourself are so valuable in helping us find the way through and find the gaps in our knowledge, and sometimes even in how we're feeling into ourselves.
Yeah, that's been my felt experience in my own horsemanship journey. How much, it's those exact moments, right? Where it's like, I really did not like how that all just went down. And so how do I learn from that? How do I support myself with more skill, more knowledge, more grace and compassion to navigate those really kind of icky, challenging moments? And what are they teaching us, right? And what is our horse teaching us? And what is our inner landscape teaching us, and how we're showing up in this moment? So that those curiosities and those questions are just what's continued to guide me, and to continued my curiosity. And how the heck do I do this in a way? How do I be in relationship with horses in a way that really feels good to me, that lights me up, that has me wanting to do it again tomorrow?
Because that's huge. And, something I've shared on the podcast previously is I meet so many people who are struggling. And I think no matter what, life, society, horsemanship, it's all tough. We're under more constraints and have more expectations than at many other points in history. And how we rise to those occasions and manage has a lot to do with how aware we are of what's really going on, and the tools that we have to cope, or the communities that we've been able to establish, and the connections that we make internally and externally as a result of that. And I'm curious, kind of along those lines, can you share when your journey with horses started to evolve into one of healing?
I think really at a very young age, as I reflect back with kind of an adult lens, I can see that it really started at a young age for me. Horses were a place of solace, and we were just talking about our ADHD brains, and I didn't know when I was a kid that my brain was that way. So just for an example, I just knew that I wasn't fitting in school and in social settings in what I felt like in a way that I should be. Like something just felt a bit funky. My mom brought horses into our lives when I was 7. And actually, I think I was 6, but we got our first horse when I was 7. And I just remember the way I felt when I was with that horse. And his name was Superstar. And he was truly a superstar.
That's amazing.
Fits that name to a T. And I can still, just even my smile, like I can still feel the way that I felt so at home in myself and with him. And I couldn't have named it that way as a kid, but I can definitely now. And I can remember how it feels in my body because it's still there.
Mm-hmm.
And then
I
it just
feel
continued. Yeah, there you go.
That was, for anybody who can't see you right now, like it was just this rush of beautiful energy, like love and excitement and passion that I witnessed kind of surge through your body as you were describing it. That is incredible.
Yeah, and I think that has just driven, guided me since. Yeah. And then it's, life has continued in many different seasons, and horses have seen me through really tough seasons. And it got pretty real for me. Life got very real after my son was born. I was diagnosed with postpartum depression, but it was so much more than that. And I won't go too in depth, but that moment in time and that season, I had a lot of choices to make in how I was going to navigate a diagnosis, how I was going to navigate being a mother, a business owner, a wife. And I'm a pretty determined, stubborn woman. So it was like, okay, this is how I'm navigating this. I mean, I was terrified at the time, so it wasn't that confident, but that confidence developed over time. And I was just sharing with you that it was shortly after he was born that I just got this little inkling to purchase the business name Healing Through Horsemanship. Yeah. And it felt so ridiculous because I was even having trouble leaving the house. Like I was having such severe anxiety, and it was like, this seems like very weird timing to be having a business dream. But it was there nonetheless. Yeah. And so I followed it. I followed that intuition. And those little threads and kind of nuggets have just continued to guide me. And horses, I've been really privileged to have horses as a presence in my life. And then I've also worked really hard to have horses as a presence in my life because of this thread of I feel most at home in myself when I'm with horses. Yeah. And that I just want other people to feel that. I want them to feel at home in themselves and that wholeness piece that is possible even when it feels like it isn't possible.
Yes. Oh, that's so powerful. And, I just had a conversation with somebody about this on the weekend because animals and horses, I think especially, have the most profoundly magnificent way of accepting us as we are while also pushing us to grow and showing us love in a way that we don't often get in society and in life and sometimes in our family dynamics. And that acceptance is so magnificent.
It is. It is magnificent.
Right? And especially for, an ADHD individual where, we've talked a little bit about this, but as women, so often throughout our lives, we're told the way you are is not right. It's not good enough. It's not acceptable. You're too loud or too busy, or you're just weird. You're awkward.
Yeah, sure.
And even if it's not said, we know, we feel that we don't fit in. We feel that we're not the same as others. Yeah. And like you mentioned, when you know you're not fitting in as you're supposed to, that's such a palpable influence in how we then move through the world. Yeah. And so having a connection, and I when you shared that, I was just like, I totally feel that. Horses are just this powerful, magnetic presence that can call you in and just accept you. Yeah. And you can see it, I was sharing with somebody, I was walking down a barn aisle, and just to see a horse lock its eyes on you and turn its ears to you and then just come straight over, like they're just like, you, I want to do this with you. And it's just like, it's the most beautiful thing. Because so often in life with people, we're not doing that. We're not choosing one another to pour into and to connect with in really meaningful ways. And unfortunately, so often we're not choosing ourselves either. And
good point.
I think horses are so kind of astute in teaching us how to be more present and more aligned, and to know that however we're showing up, that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really, really interesting to hear that your sort of initial experience with horses, Superstar, was like that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Yeah. And are there any other kind of formative moments that stand out to you in those journeys? And feel free to share as much or as little.
Yeah.
Because even on the depression side and people struggling with other mental health components, the horses can be so incredibly healing there too.
Oh, there's so many stories. I can think of, the horse I had at the time, who I still have the privilege of working with. He is now my client's horse. His name is Justice.
Oh, wow.
And he was with me at this time in my life when I'd had my son and was going through this kind of deep dive into what is going on inside of me. And so, and then of course I actually had my son and gave birth. And so there was a day, I was at the barn every day leading up to my son's birth.
Okay.
All of my children, really.
Yeah.
And the joke actually growing up was that I lived in the barn. Where's Brooklyn? She's in the barn. And not much has changed, let me tell you. So,
relatable.
Really, exactly. So I recognized that I had my son, and then I just disappeared for I can't even remember the timeline because it was a pretty blurred time for me.
Sure.
My husband and my parents and family was chipping in to care for the horses while I was unable to leave the home, both for physical healing and then also all this mental and emotional upheaval that was happening. And so I remember the first time I walked back into the barn after I had my son. And I lock eyes with Justice. And I just saw this look in his eyes that he was like, there you are. Yeah. Where have you been? Yeah. And I was like, oh, I didn't tell you. I'm so sorry. I didn't tell you that I was going to just disappear one day. Yeah. I didn't even think it mattered to him, frankly. That was kind of my mindset.
Yes.
And I learned something from him that day. And I just, now even when I'm going away on vacation, or I will just talk to my horses and be like, gonna be gone for a while, I'll see you again soon. So these moments of, wow, I had no idea that I mattered that much to you. And that's an interesting learning. Yeah. And that my communication to you would matter. Yeah. And so it's neat because I'm still in relationship with that horse and I've witnessed his healing journey and seen how much communication matters to him in many different forms, physical, energetic, verbal, and just how important the details are. So, it's a pretty profound, it was a profound realization for me. Yeah. And an awareness of, the details matter to horses too.
Yes. So. Yeah, and maybe even more to horses than to us in that I'm a believer that as a prey animal, they're just so highly attuned. And unlike us, they don't have all of the distractions of technology and all of these social norms saying why are you paying attention to that? Why are you so distracted? Why? Yeah. That kind of diminish our natural intuition, our natural sense of things. Yeah. And I feel like with animals, that's still so sharp in a way that we've often either dulled it in ourselves or it's been dulled by our environment. Yeah. And so it's really interesting. And I have only more recently, I think, learned the importance of that communication piece with horses and just how much they understand, in speech, in the energetics, and, not wanting to feel abandoned. Yeah. And, I think a lot of it has come from listening to animal communicators and having a number of clients who have engaged with animal communicators and hearing the things that come out.
Yeah, it's amazing. Hey?
It's astonishing. Yeah. There's no way these people could know the information that they're then conveying. Yeah. And yet, when I've heard it, it's oh, that's bang on. Yeah. It's so incredible to to be peeling back the layers of their experience in a way that allows us to meet them where they're at.
Yeah.
And sometimes to gain realization of how our behavior or lack of presence or behavior impacts them.
Exactly.
You know, it's really, really interesting. I love that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of learning for us in it too.
Constantly.
So, yeah, right? Yes. Whether we want it or not.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, it's funny because I was wondering for you how you see horsemanship as a mirror for us in terms of our inner and our outer world. And I feel like that kind of ties into that. But if there's anything else that you see or areas where you see that being applicable.
And I've learned actually from one of my great teachers who I was telling you about earlier, Lisa Hartwick, who speaks to just a little shift on the language of mirror, and that it's actually kind of relational reciprocity, that there is a flow between us. And she speaks it because it brings it into a deeper layer of relationship versus an inanimate object that is mirroring something to us. So when she taught me that, I really, I've meditated on it quite a bit and mulled it over. And I really see that you know, what I need to learn is going to show up if I'm available and open to it. And what the horse needs to learn or communicate is also going to show up, especially if I'm available and willing to listen. It is, I think, probably the more you talk to equine professionals, certainly the more I talk to them, the more we show up with an openness. And I think this is true for people too. An availability, an energetic intention of I am here to listen, I am here to support. Those types of intentions are felt energetically, and just like you've been speaking to, horses are incredibly attuned and intelligent when it comes to energetics and emotions and sound, you know, environment. And so I mean, everything comes down to that to me. I think the whole world is about relationship. And that's the lens, at least, through which I see the world and what really matters to me. And then everything is available to us and for us. And we get to get curious about what's here for me. What can I learn? What can be healed and shifted and changed? And for me, I mean, I feel emotional even just saying it, because the amount of healing and wholeness that horses have offered me is a bit beyond words. And enough said.
Yeah, I'm like choking back.
Right? Like, that's that. Okay.
Moving right along. I'll just dry our eyes a little bit. It's so true, you know, and I'm so glad you shared the piece about everything in life really being about relationship, because as we were talking about earlier, like that's something that I think as a whole, humanity has sort of shifted away from, and we see a lot of consumption of content or ideas on social media, and yet a lot less flow and exchange of energy in positive ways, and in ways where we are showing up open to learning about ourselves and where we could stand to grow. But, you know, as you were saying that, and I had alluded to this earlier, even since deciding to start the podcast, it's been so remarkable to see energetically what has come my way once I became available for it. And I've had so many instances in my life where that has happened. And the more I dig into things and the more I meditate and the more self-awareness I gain and the more passion I have around the connections that I'm forming, the more all of it just starts to feel supportive and expansive. And especially with horses, you know, I feel like you can't work with horses every day and not have these realizations if you're coming at it from an approach of being helpful and wanting to learn.
Yeah.
And wanting to really hear what it is they have to teach us.
Yeah.
Because there's just a never-ending scope to what their body language can communicate, what watching them in a herd can do, and being amongst the herd and feeling how they come together to support us if we're struggling, and even how they support one another, or you know, kind of keep one another in line in ways where they don't take offense.
Yeah.
It's just really genuine, and you know,
it's pretty clear.
It is. And I think a lot of the challenges that we face as humans is that there's so little clarity. And we have so many tools with which to be clear, and yet there's so much muddiness. Yeah. Which is kind of interesting.
It is interesting. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and yet I have a pretty cool lens in the work that I do, that I get to see a lot of the clarifying, and I'm really grateful for that. It sustains me, and you know, we just had a women's circle on Monday, and one of the themes we were working through was grief, and seeing how that showed up in the herd, you know, and how they navigated both some of their own grief that they're working through in the herd right now, and also how they worked with the people showing up with their grief. And I mean, I can share a simple story. One of them is older and more wise in one of the horses, in his ability to hold space and process, let's say in this case, the energy and emotion of grief. And then there were two younger geldings, and their edges of discomfort with it kept coming up, and they would come into kind of like, well, I want this attention, and they'd kind of lash out at the older horse, and then or at each other, you know, like either nip at each other or shoo somebody off. And it was kind of this little like, oh, well, what about me? I want my turn, you know?
Yes.
And like I was just watching the older gelding, and his name is Bo, and he was just really steadily kind of holding the space and holding a boundary. Like, you know, you guys, if you need to sort out kind of your own identity, it was almost like they were sorting out kind of their place in this. He just kind of quietly held space for the whole group. And so it was very clear, and we discussed it as a group, you know, wow, what do you see is happening? And it was really clear to all of the people present. Oh yeah, we see what's happening here. And so just the clarifying that happens when we come together as people, as an interspecies herd of horses and people, in nature, and we just start to see kind of the threads, the patterns, the connections of relationship, and how we influence each other, where the edges are, you know, in our capacity for what's happening, and or a lack of capacity. And so I feel really grateful that I get to be in rooms, so to speak, in arenas, you know, where a lot of the clarifying is happening. And it's getting clearer for people, and it's getting clearer for horses. So that's been a pretty privileged lens to see through.
Absolutely. And just so unique. And I'm curious, in one of those circles, can you tell us a little bit more about how the grief is processed internally for the people, and, you know, how the horse is holding space or coming up against their edges? How does that all sort of look and feel in practice for those involved?
Yeah, great question. So practically speaking, we start our circles apart from the horses. In the colder months, we're around a fire. So the element of fire is a really big support for emotions of all kinds, and helping with presence, with coming into relationship with fire, with sound, with heat. So that element is a big piece. We will gather around the fire. We've got yoga mats. We set up, typically we're outside if we can be. And we will start with practices that support connecting to our layers of self. So physical body, energetic, emotional, all the layers that are showing up. So that can be simple practices like breath work, meditation, visualization, yoga, so movement practices. And we do some time of sharing as well so that we can get clear kind of on what is showing up. So in the instances of grief. And then we take those practices and we move into time with the herd, and we continue practices of presence. And I like to think about emotions as energy in motion. And horses are such incredible teachers of energy in motion and moving emotions efficiently. That's really important for a prey animal, to be able to move things efficiently so that they can survive. They can continue to live another day. And so it will look differently every time we host a circle. This past week, it looked like our older horse was going very deep into what I call a meditative state. And it looks to me like he's processing energy, processing emotions, co-regulating nervous systems, and really holding space. And it's really interesting to watch their intuitive knowing of who to approach, when to approach, how to approach, when to deepen into more meditative layers, when to lighten and run. Sometimes it literally looks like them running around the arena and moving energy physically. Sometimes it's that more quiet stillness of their heads are lowering, their eyes are closing. And I get tender even talking about it, because I still am kind of in awe that they choose to engage in this with us. And I think that's that relational piece that is so really special about so many different relationships. And of course, horses hold a really special place there for me. That's like that they choose to engage when they could be anywhere else. So that's an interesting thing, right? They could be at the end of this huge arena, or sometimes we're in a huge field. They choose to come and stand with the people. Sometimes it's standing behind them. Sometimes people are sitting on the earth and they're holding space above them. Like it has so many different ways it can look. And a lot of it is the felt experience of emotion being able to move in people. Maybe things that have been held, stuck in the body, starts to move. And there is just something about a horse's presence. I think it's there's probably many facets to it, but a big piece of it is what you spoke to about the non-judgmental, loving presence that they seem to just emit in large quantities. And it just creates an opening for a lot of people. And it's pretty amazing.
That sounds so powerful. And I would love to come to one of the circles.
Oh, please do.
Because I think it would just be magnificent to sit in that and see how the horses are and experience, the energetic feeling of working through things with them. Because it's really, I kind of had a bit of an experience with that recently. And I find it hard because in this area, I don't get to spend a lot of time with herds.
Right.
So many of the places that I'm working, we have horses who are turned out individually in smaller paddocks. And so we don't have the herd dynamic or the energetics that are involved when they're functioning as a unit. It's different. But I went to visit my retired mare, and she was out in a herd, and they had one herd of the mares with a couple babies, and then one herd of all the sort of 1 to 4 year olds. And so, those are the the rambunctious ones. That's the rambunctious herd over there. And then, the wise herd over here. And, I was there to say goodbye to her. And so there was, of course, a lot of emotion with that and with seeing her. And it was really incredible to see how the herd came and just supported that. And, incorporated some really sweet, kind of affectionate nuzzling, and then, you know, some silliness and how they would, you know, but then the edges would come up and they'd drive one another away. Like, no, it's my turn. I want the attention. And, you know, then went over to the younger herd, and to just see, you know, they'd want to walk right beside me, and they'd brush off anybody else who wanted to come and have an interaction. And it's just so incredible to see how they communicate and how, just how impactful their presence is. You know, and I'm sure it's the size and the co-regulation piece that you pointed out earlier. You know, there's just so much to it. It's really just a magical experience to be in connection with horses on any level. So I'll have to come and see. Please let me know when the next one is, because I think it's just incredible. And as you were chatting and saying how good horses are at moving energy, it made me curious, you know, as predators, people, and living a sedentary life as so many of us do now, I wonder if that makes us more prone to having the energy stay stuck.
Oh, great inquiry.
Right? And maybe
probably.
Like, and why movement tends to be so therapeutic. And actually, I'd love to hear about your yoga teacher, your yoga instructor certification that you're finishing, and how that's going to integrate into your practices.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I'm right at the cusp of finishing that up. It's been over a year of really intentional learning and practice. And my original intent was I've spent most of my career and schooling focused on learning horsemanship skills and how I can support horses. And from a very young age, I was 18 when it felt like I was given the vision to and desire to create spaces for horses and humans to heal together.
Okay.
And that was a cool experience. And so that's been in me since I was 18. And I, throughout my life, have been like, do I become a counselor? What is the pathway? And so I ended up becoming a coach and an equestrian professional. And then it was like, okay, I'd like some more skills to support people. And how do I want to do that? And what would feel fun? Because I'm in a season of life where there's just a lot of seriousness, a lot of parenting, a lot of business. And I want something that can really feel nourishing for me and is going to inspire me to go and study.
Yes. Yeah. The inspiration.
So, right? I really needed that piece. So yoga has emerged a number of times for me. It's been a practice I've had, oh my gosh, probably since my early 20s, maybe even my teen years.
Okay.
And so I actually started my certification 4 or 5 years ago, and then we had a couple of family members pass away, and I just did not have capacity to continue.
Sure.
And then I met a really beautiful soul, Kristen, and she, I think this was about 4 years ago, became my yoga teacher.
Okay.
And then she brought this school to me and said, have you ever considered, getting your certification?
Wow.
So that's, it's the whole picture for me of how can I become more equipped to support people and horses. That's it, put really simply. And so these women's circles are a huge part of that. And then continuing to, I really want to integrate, and already do actually, and have been practicing with students while I've been in school.
Good.
I have a mentorship program for horsemanship, and now I'm integrating yoga into that as well, which really helps with embodiment, physical capacity, presence, breath is so important for us, for both presence and athleticism. Meditation, being able to visualize, how often does fear and our worst case scenarios get in our way of where we want to be? And so how can we integrate working with our minds, working with our hearts, our souls through meditation, through visualization? So, I mean, it just feels like the world's my oyster, and I can just keep playing with all of these really rich, ancient practices that offer a lot of wisdom. And then there's also the joy and the levity of being able to move our bodies and feel our bodies and be silly, you know. Our teachers will just say, like, yes, let yoga be silly. Like, it doesn't all need to be serious. And
That's
same
so
with horsemanship,
fun.
right? Like,
Yeah.
can we let it be silly? Can we let it be light and bring us back to that little girl in us that was like drawn to horses in the first place?
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, I feel like I could talk forever about it all.
Yeah, well, and I love that. And it's so cool because so rarely do we really get opportunities to be silly as adults.
Yeah.
And too frequently, I feel like life gets so heavy. And then the heaviness gets heavier, you know, because then we're fatigued from carrying the weight, but the weight hasn't gone anywhere. We just have less and less capacity internally, externally to deal with it. And so having practices and being able to integrate practices that help both mind, well, not both, but help mind, body, spirit, energy, emotions, all be aligned towards where we want to go or what we're trying to do, I think is so huge. Really powerful. I love that.
Yeah, me too.
And I'm like, oh, maybe I need to start doing more yoga.
Yeah, right.
I used to do a ton of Pilates, but I have not
practice.
been as into yoga. But the meditation piece is huge, the breath work piece, because all of those things, kind of back to what we were sort of talking about in the very beginning, is it helps us just reconnect and realign with self, but also with others. And it is so often these ancient practices that have the potential to revive things that I think are being lost within us these days. And I think it's what's being lost within us, that disconnect from self, from others, from authenticity, plays a huge role in our global dissatisfaction in life. And, you know, so many of the people I meet are struggling. They're struggling with their horses, they're struggling with their riding, but a lot of the time they're just also struggling with themselves. And how can you not, to an extent? I mean, there is just so much that life requires of us these days. And it's hard because at very few points in history have we ever needed to do it all in the way we sort of are being forced to now. And I think just the demand that places on us, it can really be debilitating unless we're finding ways to revive and refill and refuel energetically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically. And so it's really neat that you're tying the practice of yoga in with your horsemanship stuff.
Thank
I love that.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, that I feel like there's just so much potential there. And I'll be really interested to hear how it all gets integrated as you complete your certification and continue moving in that direction.
Yeah, I'll keep you posted.
Yes, please do. I'm really excited to hear how it all goes. So I know you had mentioned you've worked in all kinds of really interesting places, Hawaii, Fiji, now Vancouver Island. And I'm curious, how have those landscapes or your experiences in those different areas impacted your beliefs or your practices as they are today?
That's a rich question.
Yeah.
So many ways. And I love that question. One of the great teachings of being able to travel and experience different cultures and different people groups, different animals, is that at the root of us, we're all so much the same. And that, I think I was quite young when I started traveling, so it was surprising to me at the time to just go, we might look different, we live different, you know, we eat different foods, we live in different environments, different styles of homes, different rhythms, and yet I can just see the needs of humanity are across the board. There's threads of sameness. And I love that feeling. I love that feeling of being woven together. It really, actually, one of the Yoga Sutras is that separateness is an illusion.
Oh, I love that.
I love that too. Like it is, and it can feel very real. I know that feeling. I know that feeling of being alone, and I'm alone in this. And then if we can challenge it with that, what if that's not true? You know, it might feel true, like there's a validity to that. And is there any other possibility available to us? And so I learned that a lot in traveling and meeting different cultures, that we are all so interconnected and so, even if we can't speak the same language, there's still, oh, and I love this, there's still a way we communicate. And that to me is so integral to our horsemanship, that there's kind of, there is a universal language. And I think of it as the language of energy and intention. I think the trees speak it, the land speaks it. I think it is felt and experienced by all living beings. And that, what it did for me is just open up endless possibilities. Because it can feel so, like, if I can't speak the same language as you, how the heck do we communicate? Which is often a question people have. How do I communicate to this horse? He doesn't speak English. You know, I don't know what to do. What's most important? Is it body language? Is it vocal commands? Is it, you know, what is it? And so learning this universal language of energy, of intention, has really transformed my life and my horsemanship. And then just seeing the threads of, you know, I've worked with horses all over the place, and noticing what I really like about what's being done, you know, what I would shift, what I would change, what's working, what's not. And just seeing that, like, there's so much learning there. And so I could go on and on about that, and I won't.
But I love it, you know, because it's true. There's just an endless opportunity there to explore and grow and experience things externally, you know, in terms of our relationship with horses or with people. And similarly, to explore things within ourselves, because if we're struggling to communicate, why might that be? You know, what place are we operating from? And if we stop and breathe and really get centered, so often just the energetic shift alone that can come from that speaks volumes.
Exactly.
So it's not always about knowing what to do. Sometimes it's really just more about learning how to feel. And, you know, I would almost question in other cultures where maybe they're not so individualistic, like we've become sort of in more developed countries, or where they're not as connected to technology versus people. You know, I would imagine they're probably much more adept at communicating even when they don't necessarily know the way. Right? Because they're more equipped just based on the tools that they're using on a daily basis for connection. And I think one of the biggest challenges that I see currently, you know, and I see it with romantic relationship, familial relationship, I especially see it since the pandemic, there's almost a skepticism around people's intentions, and an unwillingness to trust or see the best in someone, or contemplate that maybe they're suffering and struggling and that's why they're showing up the way they are. And again, I think that's somewhere where a horse isn't going to judge somebody. They, you know, they'll feel what they're about, but also sometimes they'll just hold space for them. And it's something that as a whole in society these days, I feel like we've gotten away from. And it's harder for us to tune in because it's just not a muscle that we've flexed as frequently in our upbringing and in our ways of relating to one another. And, you know, I think it leads to a lot of internal strife and suffering because we then don't have the support. You know, as you mentioned, it's not sometimes just a perception of being alone. Like sometimes that is the reality that's existing around us. However, when we really dig into it, and I had an experience this weekend of just you know, in deep meditation and realizing, oh, yeah, even if I'm alone, I'm not really alone. And connecting to relatives who have passed away and how I can always access that, you know, and I can always ask for guidance or wisdom or help or support. And really, in one way or another, it's there. And, you know, as we were discussing earlier, just having support within the equestrian community, because so many equine professionals are really going it alone. And, you know, much like the clients that I meet and work with every day are struggling in so many of their kind of issues and relationships and things with horses, so many of the professionals I meet are really struggling because burnout is a real factor in this industry. You know, there's no end to what we can give to our professions. And so much of it is fueled by that love and passion for horses. And yet, if we don't have support and we don't have the community around us, it can feel a lot heavier. But when we put it out that we're open to that, and again, just, you know, we hadn't seen one another in a while. So it's just so beautiful to start reconnecting in these ways where we can all be there for one another. And in doing so, people are then there for us. And that's so beautiful.
It's a pretty powerful inquiry. You know, how can I, and it's a great question for our horsemanship relationships, right? Our relationship with horses. What capacity do I have? How can I show up to support? What do I need in return? How do I need to be supported? And what does that actually tangibly look like? Do I need a phone call?
Yes.
Do I need a presence, you know, a time of connection? Do I need to breathe or meditate? And do I need to go touch a tree and be in nature? And the more we can get curious about that, the more I find it dissolves those patterns of self-protection, the belief systems of self-protection. And then there's a whole world available to us of connection instead of disconnection.
It's so true. This is such a great conversation, and I'm so appreciative. Now, I know we will have to wrap up, but I am curious for anybody who is interested in pursuing relational sort of horsemanship and digging into some of the things that we've talked about today. Are there any sort of first steps or practices that you would recommend they start with to dip their toes in?
Yes, there are. So, a simple practice that we could even do together right now, if you want to.
Absolutely, I'd love that.
Okay, so this is a really simple one just for you and your body, and you can also practice it in the presence of a horse. And so it's a great place to start for those of you that may or may not have horses in your lives right now. So we can start by just sitting in a chair, or you can be sitting on the earth. Feet can be flat on the earth. And what we're looking for is first just that connection. If you want, you can close down the windows of your eyes with the earth beneath you. So if you're in a chair, you can feel into your sit bones and the chair beneath you. If it's beneath your feet, you can feel into the earth beneath your feet. And then notice the qualities of the earth beneath you. The stability, maybe even the possibility of being supported and held by Mother Earth. And then see if you can welcome breath into that. So maybe an inhale through your nose, pausing at the top of your inhale, and then exhaling out your mouth. And then again, inhale into that contact point with the earth. So you're imagining your breath going all the way there. And then exhale. And then notice as your breath returns to its regular rhythm, Notice sensation in the body or lack of sensation in the body. Notice the quality of that contact point with Mother Earth. And then when you're ready, you can gently open the windows of your eyes and start to orient to the space around you. Colors, textures, just noticing what's around you, who's around you. So it's a really simple practice. Yeah. Really simple start. It doesn't mean I hesitated on simple, because it doesn't mean it's easy necessarily.
Yes. Yeah.
But just noticing. And then that can be practiced in the presence of horses. You know, maybe with a fence in between you, if that feels like the safest way to do it. Or as we started at the end, they're orienting to space. This is a really important one to horses. And so often referred to as sensing in or orienting. Both of those practices are really important. So it can look like, you know, what do I see around me? Going into our five senses. What do we hear? What do we taste? What do we feel? What do we smell? Horses sense in a lot. And the more I've given space and time for horses to do that in, let's say, a typical training session, just slowing down enough to go, oh, what are we noticing? What is in our environment? How is this for you? You know, how is that smell that you're smelling? Like, is it activating you? Is it relaxing you? And these little inquiries that can become gold nuggets to deeper connection, easier flow of moving with horses, whether again that's on the ground or in the saddle or bareback, whatever it is that you're desiring to do with horses. It brings in deeper connection and honestly creates more safety, because the more we can be in contact and connection, the more we can communicate about feelings of lack of safety, you know, fear. And then the more we can go, what do I need to feel safe, to feel comfortable enough to go and do this thing together? You know, this jump, this trail ride, this whatever the heck it is, this liberty session. So,
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's, you know, and I would encourage all of you to try that, because one thing that, you know, I've brought up in podcasts previously is so often we get to the barn and, you know, we're stressed and we're coming from work and we were in traffic and we're rushed and maybe we have to get ready for a lesson. And so we bring all of this. And sometimes it's really nice just to allow ourselves the moment, because unfortunately I would say often what I witness is we're not giving the horses that moment, but we're not giving ourselves that moment either. And so we're both kind of coming together in this slightly dysregulated state where they're like, whoa, you're tense. And we're like, whoa, calm down. You know?
Totally.
And we don't realize that, oh, it's us.
I brought those.
Until we walked up and got them. They were just chilling in their paddock. They were having a great time. This whole thing was not even on their radar. And now they're just like, whoa. And so it can be really helpful in terms of acknowledging where we're at and giving them the benefit of the doubt and some grace that, you know, they kind of have to put up with us.
Totally, right? Now, how much are we bringing to the relationship here?
Yes. This is a question that I just always want people to ask. Like, what are you bringing to the table for them?
Yeah.
Because we have so many expectations around our horses so often. And the more we can start integrating the connection pieces and the awareness and the attunement, the less that becomes sort of us demanding of them and them forming connection and us doing something together. And I think that's really what it's all about for me, and something that I've moved so strongly towards, because the other things I've spent years doing, decades probably, that haven't felt good, but it was all I knew or all I'd been taught. And yet I was struggling with this like discomfort internally of, oh, that doesn't feel good, or, oh, I don't want to do it that way.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's really nice when we can start being our own voice and being their voice.
Yeah.
You know, and starting to connect with all of that stuff.
Yeah, and practicing compassionate awareness.
Yeah.
Right? And a loving awareness where towards ourselves first, and then letting that, I like to say, you know, towards self first, so that it can genuinely overflow to those around us. I can only offer what I've already given to myself.
Yeah.
And so the more we can extend that to ourselves, the more it can be extended to horses, humans.
Yes.
The trees.
Yeah.
All
to
the beings.
everything. Yeah. And I'm so glad you said that because, you know, again, I think one of the things that I recognize so often in the competitive levels of the sport, there's people that are being so hard on themselves. And there's so much
easy to be.
It is, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, competition in horses is so tricky. Like there's one winner, and at the end of the day, your horse may not have slept well. There might have been a storm. Its neighbor may have passed away the day before. Like there could be all of these things that they're bringing that we're unaware of. And there's all these things that we're bringing that are setting them off that we're unaware of. And then we're so hard on ourselves if we don't perform perfectly, or we're so hard on them. And so just finding some grace for us in all of it, I think is so helpful. And it's funny, I think that was the beginning of my transformation in how I worked with horses, was just being okay with not being okay, and being okay with showing up like, hey, I'm having a really hard day. And my mare Ellie was such a great teacher of that, because she would just like, she had no time for you if you did not show up in a way that was respectful towards her.
Yeah.
And
well done,
you
Ellie.
know, right? And this mare, you know, she was huge. And so she just would not tolerate it.
Yeah.
And it was so incredible to have the gift of being able to learn from her. And yet the sweetest, kindest, most gentle horse. But also, like, if you came in too hot, whew,
she'd let you know.
She'd let you know in no uncertain terms that was not gonna fly. Like, you need to park your shit at the door, lady, because I'm not carrying it for you. And I have so much respect for that. Right. And I'm just like, oh, thank God. Because how long would I have continued on not knowing and having awareness of what I was bringing to the table or not?
Exactly, right? You know? It brings awareness. Well, they're so big, too, and they're so clear that it really quickly brings awareness to, okay.
Oh, it's me.
Right. Alrighty.
So true. Oh, too funny. Yeah. Okay, and so I love that practice. Are there any other little tips or tricks that you would recommend if somebody wants to shift from like doing with their horse, because I think we do so much, to just being?
Yes. Oh, yes. So many. First would be to just go and sit somewhere with your horse. Or stand if you're more comfortable standing, but undemanding time where you're just going to be in a practice of presence and also a practice of observation. So even that alone, notice while I say that, how comfortable or uncomfortable that is for you. Because I know when I started practicing this, it was like, I'm just going to sit here and do nothing. Like, what is this nothing practice? I don't know if I like this. So I am definitely, a recovering doer.
Yes, likewise.
Well, and I still love to do. It's a great part of being alive. So being able to go and do something that is completely outside of your normal rhythms. So, whether that's taking a journal and sitting in your horse's paddock, or going and standing somewhere with them, whatever it looks like, whatever environment feels the best for both of you, switch it up and then observe what your horse does. How is it between both of you? How is your relational dynamic? What is your horse interested in? What are you interested in? What is hard for you both in that practice? So that's one little tidbit. What else could I say? I love herd observation. And like you mentioned, that can be challenging to find a herd that you can observe if you can, or even observing horses interacting over paddock fences. Just spending time watching. That has been my greatest teacher, one of. And I love what I learned from the herd and how they show up at different times in the day, different emotional energies. Food, right, is always one that activates lots of conversation. So observation, and then that observation could also be taken inwardly. This practice of getting curious instead of judging is a huge one. And sometimes we even are judging.
Yes.
So, notice that when you head out to your horse, when you're driving. This is a practice I have. If I'm driving to a client or I'm driving home to my horses, how present am I in the car? Can I literally slow down, drive 10 kilometers an hour and just go, what do I notice outside my windows? What do I notice about the energetic presence or state that I'm in right now? Often I need to slow it down. I'm a pretty revved up individual. So usually my practice is slowing and grounding. And so switch it up like that for yourself as you're driving to your horse or walking to your horse or cycling to your horse, whatever it is that whatever mode of transportation you have. Practice grounding. So feeling your feet is a really simple way. And then observing how you're showing up in the moment. And is there anything that you'd like to shift to show up in a more whole way of being, is I think how I would verbalize it. So
fabulous.
Yeah, I could keep going,
good.
but alas, we probably do need to wrap it up.
Yes, but thank you for sharing that.
Welcome.
And the beauty is with these practices, you guys, you can do them anywhere, anytime. And it could be a moment or a few moments. It doesn't have to be something that's really laborious and, feels like yet another drain on your time or your energy. It can be something that's so easily integrated. And it may not feel easy.
Exactly.
But it's simple, and it's something that once you start being mindful of it, we're all getting to the barn somehow. So if we can tune in that journey, I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, there's so many more things, but can you tell everybody where they can find you and how they might go about joining for one of the circles?
Thank you.
Maybe with me.
Yes, absolutely.
But just any of the circles, because that's so exciting.
Yeah, thank you. brghorsemanship.com is my website. That is my initials, so Brooklyn Rae Greig, BRG Horsemanship. And the circle registration is on the website. You can also find me on Instagram or Facebook, BR Greig. Last name is spelled Greig. That is my Instagram handle. And what else to say? The best way to reach me would probably be through the website or through Instagram or Facebook. And we are going to run our circles all through the winter this year. Last year we paused them. The year before we did do it through the winter. So we're going to keep going. And we usually do typically 2 Mondays a month and 1 Saturday from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m. Unless there's holidays like over Christmas. We'll probably in December we'll just do 2 circles. So that is that flow. And then we also have horse and land immersions. So that is something I co-facilitate with Lisa, who I mentioned earlier.
Yes.
And these are a deepening of a therapeutic container with horses in nature on the land. With Lisa, who's a psychotherapist, and myself as an equine professional and soon to be yoga teacher. Got to get used to saying that one.
Yes.
So there's a lot of opportunities, and then we are continually creating. We have a really cool team. Megan Keeler founded the women's circles with me. She's an excellent equine professional. And so we just are continually creating new offerings for people and horses. So stay tuned. We have lots coming your way for 2026 that I am very excited about.
Oh, I'm so excited too. And again, I cannot thank you enough for taking the time to join and share. And I'm just so excited to come. I want to come for all the things.
Come for all the things.
Also, we need more time together. And we actually live very close to one another. And so it's crazy that we haven't seen each other in years and years and years. But
how cool that we've connected now. Yeah. And also thank you for having me and investing the time in creating this space for all of us equine professionals to feel supported and to come together in community. I'm really grateful.
My
thank
pleasure.
You all.
Yes, thank you all for watching, and stay curious, stay unbridled, and we will see you on the next episode. Take care, everybody.